Why do people fear death? The fear of death has come because of certain sense of ignorance and unawareness. Most people are terrified even by just seeing a dead body. I understand that for people who loved them, for people who cared for them, losing someone dear is a big loss. But why are people afraid of seeing a dead body? Living bodies can be dangerous. I can understand that. They can do many things to you. They can pretend to like you, but tomorrow they may kill you. But dead bodies are absolutely safe. Yet, people are afraid of them. In many parts of the world, children are told not to even utter the word death inside the house because they have a stupid hope that if you don't utter this word, it will not enter the house. This morbid fear of death is not natural. Maybe the majority of people have subscribed to it. That is different. But the fear is not a natural process. Death is a natural process. If life happens, then death is natural. Being afraid of something natural is unnatural. The fear of death is simply because we are not in touch with reality. The fear of death has come to us because we have gotten deeply identified with this body. Our identification with this body has become so strong because we have not explored other dimensions. If we had explored other dimensions of experience, if we had established ourselves in other dimensions of experience, the body would not be such a big issue. You talk of your body as if you came with it. You did not. You only gathered it. You gathered it while in your mother's womb and continued gathering it after your birth. Whatever we accumulate, we can say this is mine, but you cannot say this is me. Now, if I take the cup from which I drink water and say this is my cup, you will think Sadhguru seems to have some problem. But let me listen some more. Everyone says he is wise. But after some time, if I say this is me, then you will definitely say, let me get away from this person. But you are doing the same thing with your body, which is why you make such a big fuss about shedding it. Suppose you overate and gathered a lot of body during the next few weeks and then worked out and dropped some of it. You don't call it death. You gathered something and you put it back. No big deal. You would be happy and relieved, not distressed about it. It should be the same with death. What you know is death is just a little bit of purging. With age, the flesh is beginning to lose its vigor. So it needs to be cleaned up. Either you put back what you gathered joyfully or you put it back crying. That is a choice you have. Death is like you picked up a spade full of soil and threw it back. But instead, if you look at this spade full of soil and get very attached to it, you will cry like a child when it falls off your spade. It is like a child who picked up a little pebble from somewhere, came home and lost it. He is heartbroken. He cries inconsolably. If all that you know is just the body, then this is what will happen to you. But if you had known something in your life that is more than the body, then shedding the body will not be a big deal for you. What you refer to as life is essentially like a term loan from a bank. They may give you a 10-year loan, but it is not yours. You must pay back. With some tricks, you can extend it to 12 years. If you are very tricky, you can stretch it to 15 years. If you are super tricky, maybe you can stretch it to 20 years. That is about it. Beyond that, no one has stretched it until now. People may tell you stories that someone lived for 4,000 years or 10,000 years because they probably want to make a movie. But no one has stretched life that much. There are ways to hibernate life so that you still maintain your intent beyond the body and you can once again take a body and come back. That is a different matter. That is not stretching your life, that is handling the natural cycle consciously. Now, generally in society, people have been convincing you that after all, the fear of death is natural. Whatever the majority of people do, they say it is natural. If the majority of the people were smoking cigarettes, people would say smoking is a natural thing, isn't it? This was happening in the past. Even now, certain groups of people say it is natural. A human being is not made to smoke. You are not an automobile. It is not natural for you to smoke, but people will make it natural. When I was growing up, my lack of fear caused a lot of anxiety to my father. He would keep saying, "What will happen to this boy? There is no fear in his heart about anything." One day I turned around and asked him, "When did fear become a virtue?" Fear is not a virtue, but people have made it so natural that they think something is missing if there is no fear. Similarly, right now, the fear of death has been made natural by society. Somewhere along the way, the fear of pain has become mixed with the fear of death because a lot of people think death is going to be painful. This is why they request doctors to give them something so that they can go painlessly. Death is not painful. Believe me, it is very nice. It does not happen because of any particular thing. It is just happening all the time. It is just that at some point people realize that it has happened to them. Other times they don't realize it. The breaking of the body can hurt. That can be painful, but not death. The disease that causes death may be painful, but the injury that causes death may be painful, but death itself is not painful. It once happened. Sankaran Pillai fell off the second floor and screamed. People gathered and asked, "Why? Did the fall hurt you?" He said, "You idiots, it is not the fall, it was the stopping." In people's understanding, often one thing gets mixed up with the other. The fear of pain is a physiological thing. The body builds this up as a survival mechanism in anticipation of pain. It is a physiological reality, and you don't want to go through that because you know how unpleasant it can be. But the fear of death has no basis because death is not painful. Yet, why do people fear death? Let us say you took a loan of $1 million from me, and in 10 years' time it grew to $1 billion. Now, if I tell you that I am coming to your house, you will welcome me wonderfully. If I ask for my $1 million, you will happily give it back and maybe something on top of it too. You will regard me as your great friend because I gave you the money 10 years ago. But if you have squandered the $1 million I gave you, if I say I am coming to your house, I will feel like death to you. You will shiver in your pants. Actually, for many people, their debt collectors create more fear in them than their death. The fear of death is also like this. Planet Earth is telling you it is time to pay back your loan. No interest, nothing. If you made something truly wonderful out of it, you will joyfully pay it back and go. But if you made nothing out of it except living your life psychologically, you will be terrified. Those who have not made good use of it will always try to dodge. Those who are successful in knowing and existing as a full-fledged life are willing to pay back joyfully without any problem. Those who never really lived and only thought about it are scared and bewildered. If you really look at it, you are not afraid of physical death as such. Suppose you have grown old and God offers you a deal. Okay, you give me this old body and I will give you a new body. Who would not want to take it? So you are not really afraid of losing the body as such. The fear of death is about what you think you will lose by death. The fear of death is essentially the fear of loss. If someone is going to lose their job or all their money, or someone who is very dear to them, or a person whom they are very dependent upon, they will have greater fears. What they go through is just like what they go through if they are going to die. People even kill themselves rather than go through that. The real fear is not that the body is going to break one day. What will happen to me is the real fear. Fundamentally, the only thing that can get hurt, the only thing that can feel trampled, the only thing that can be abused in you is your ego or your persona. You are only constantly afraid of losing this image that you have built of who you are. That is the biggest barrier, a bubble that you are unwilling to get out of it. Actually, if in some way we devise ways to disgrace you and abuse you, not physically but in every other way, you would actually wish death over that. Now, death would be a gift, death would be a benevolence rather than going through all that. Sometimes this same fear gets translated into many different aspects. One person will make their fear of death into, I am not worried about dying, but my children, how they will suffer. So they will suffer with that fear. Someone else suffers from the fear of, I don't want to die kind of thing, simply because they don't know anything beyond that. This is a fear of losing everything that I know is myself and the world and life. Have you noticed people who have been convinced that they are going to gain by death step into it without any fear at all? If you understand there is nothing to lose, because anyway you came with nothing and there is nothing to lose, the fear of death will not be relevant.